Multiplying and dividing in scientific notation. To multiply or divide numbers, written in scientific notation, multiply or divide the factors and powers of 10 separately. So that means you're going to multiply the factors first, or divide the factors first, and then the powers of 10, but again, separately. So example 1, multiplying numbers in scientific notation. We're going to find the quantity 3 times 10 to the negative 5th power times quantity 5 times 10 to the negative 2nd power, and write our answer in scientific notation. So the first step is to multiply our factors. So 3 times 5. So again, I'm taking my factors right now, which are 3 and 5. 3 times 5 is 15. I can't simplify anymore, so then I'm going to bring down my multiplication sign that's between. And now my second step is to multiply my powers of 10. 10 to the negative 5th, 10 to the negative 2nd. So I'm actually going to change my multiplication x now to a dot. Well, doing it on the inside. Okay, so this is 10 to the negative 5th plus negative 2. So I want to go in and add my exponents because I'm multiplying the bases. So this gives me 10 to the negative 7th power. I'm going to bring down my 15. So 15 times 10 to the negative 7th. Now, I can't have it as 15 times 10 to the negative 7th, now that I look at it. And the reason for that, my factor is not between 1 and 10, so that's not in scientific notation. So that means I need to take my decimal and I need to move it to the left once. 1 and 5/10. Okay, I made my factor smaller, so I need my exponent to be bigger by 1. 10 to the negative 6th. So that's going to be my final answer, 1 and 5/10 times 10 to the negative 6th. Example number 2, dividing numbers in scientific notation. We're going to find 1 and 5/10 times 10 to the negative 8th divided by 6 times 10 to the negative 7th. And my apologies, go ahead and just scratch out this portion right here, as you don't need that. That was accidentally kept in from the previous. So you're going to write your answer in scientific notation. 1 and 5/10 divided by 6 times 10 to the negative 8th divided by 10 to the 7th. As you can see, I made this into 2 separate fractions. And you know what? I'm actually going to make that into a multiplication dot. First, I'm going to solve 1 and 5/10 divided by 6. That gives me 25/100. Now, I did use my calculator for that. However, that is not a requirement. You can do that by hand. I can't simplify that anymore, so that's all for that step. 10 to the negative 8th divided by 10 to the 7th, I need to subtract those exponents. That is because I am dividing my bases. So that's 10 to the negative 15th power. So I'm going to bring down this 25/100 times 10 to the negative 15th. Now you might be looking at this and saying, wait, that's not our final answer because your factor is not between 1 and 10. And you were correct. So I'm going to move the decimal to the right once. 2 and 5/10 times 10 to the negative 15th. Now, because I moved that decimal to the right once and I made my factor bigger, I need to make my exponent smaller by subtracting 1. So this actually becomes 10 to the negative 16th. The final answer is 2 and 5/10 times 10 to the negative 16th power. So go ahead and try these on your own and then check them. The directions say find the product or quotient, write your answer in scientific notation. Number 1 looks different. That's because the first term, the 6, doesn't have a power of 10. But we can still put these together. So I'm going to take 6 and multiply it by 8. So those are my like terms. Those are both the factors. And sometimes you don't always have a power of 10. I'm going to multiply this by 10 to the negative 5th power. Now I'm going to solve. 6 times 8 is 48 times 10 to the negative 5th. 48 is not between 1 and 10. So what you have to do is take your decimal and move it to the left once. 4 and 8 tenths times 10. Well, because I moved it to the left once and made my factor smaller, I need to make my exponent bigger. So I add 1. So 4 and 8 tenths times 10 to the negative 4th. All right, number 2. 7 times 10 squared times 3 times 10 to the 5th. Well, this one's written in a format that we're more used to. So I want to multiply my factors together. As a reminder, my factors are 7 and 3. So 7 times 3. Then, and actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to change these to multiplication dots. Then I'm going to take 10 to the 2nd power times 10 to the 5th power. So I'm taking my powers of 10. So 7 times 3 is 21. Times 10 to the 2nd plus 5. Because I'm multiplying my bases, I want to add my exponents, so that becomes 10 to the 7th. And I bring the number 21 down. Now, hopefully you're seeing, oh, this is not done. It's not in scientific notation because 21 is not between 1 and 10. So I take my decimal and move it to the left once. Because I'm making my factor smaller, my exponent needs to get bigger by 1. 2 and 1/10 times 10 to the 8th power. Number 3. Oh, this one's similar to number 1 in that the second term, 4 and 6/10, doesn't have a power of 10. But again, we can solve this because 9 and 2/10, 4 and 6/10 are both factors. 9 and 2/10 divided by 4 and 6/10. Using my calculator, that gives me 2. Bring down 10 to the 12th power. Number 4. My apologies, that should say 4. We are going to divide our factors. So 1 and 5/10, 7 and 5/10. Which is going to give me 2/10. Then, I'm sorry, that should say times. I'm going to take 10 to the negative 3rd divided by 10 squared. So because I'm dividing my bases, I want to subtract my exponents. Negative 3 minus 2. 10 to the negative 5th. 2/10 times 10 to the negative 5th. Now that's not completed because my factor is not between 1 and 10. I have to move my decimal to the right one, which gives me 2. Because I moved it to the right one and made it bigger, I have to make my exponent smaller by subtracting 1. 2 times 10 to the negative 6th. You'll notice for certain problems, I was using multiplication dots in between, meaning you could have 2 times 10 to the negative 6th. That's completely up to you. They mean the same thing. Great work.